Poor boy takes lost child to police, unaware she was the mayor's daughter. Tyler Johnson felt his stomach burning with hunger as he walked through the streets of New Haven, a small town in Pennsylvania where social contrasts were evident at every corner. His worn-out sneakers no longer protected his feet from the loose stones on the pavement, and the dirty shirt he had been wearing for 3 days was starting to bother even him. That's when he heard the soft crying coming from the town square. A girl of about 8 years old was sitting alone on a wooden bench, tears streaming down her rosy cheeks. Tyler stopped and looked around, searching for any adult who might be taking care of her, but there was no one nearby. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, approaching slowly so as not to scare her. The girl lifted her face, revealing bright green eyes red from crying. She wore a neatly pressed beige dress, flawless brown leather shoes, and a golden necklace that shimmered around her neck. "I can't find my mommy," she sniffed, wiping her nose with the back of her small hand. Tyler sat beside her on the bench, keeping a respectful distance. At 15, he had already seen a lot on the streets and knew how to recognize when a child was truly lost and scared. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emma," she replied, looking down at her hands. Emma Wilson. The last name meant nothing to Tyler at that moment. He was more focused on helping the child find her family. "Do you remember where you were before you got lost, Emma?" She shook her head, making her blonde braids sway. "I was in the car with Mommy, going to the clothing store. Then she stopped to talk to a lady on the street, and I got out to look at the birds by the fountain. When I looked again, the car was gone." Tyler glanced around the square. It was mid-afternoon on a Thursday, and few people were around. The fountain Emma mentioned was on the other side of the square, about 50 yards from where they sat. "Your mom must be looking for you then. Let's go to the police station so they can help find her, okay?" Emma hesitated for a moment, studying the boy's face. There was something genuine in his brown eyes that reassured her. "Will you stay with me?" she whispered. "Of course. I won't leave you alone." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. Tyler held out his hand, and Emma took it without hesitation. Together, they walked the 3 blocks separating the town square from the New Haven police station. Along the way, Emma asked about his life with the natural curiosity of a child. "Why are your clothes dirty?" she asked innocently. "I work a lot," Tyler replied, avoiding details about his reality. "What about you? Do you like school?" "I do. I'm in 3rd grade. My teacher says I'm really smart." "I'm sure you are." When they arrived at the station, Tyler pushed open the glass door and they stepped into a lobby with cold floors and yellowed walls. Behind the service counter, a man in a blue uniform was typing something on a computer with just 2 fingers. "Excuse me," Tyler called, approaching the counter. The officer looked up, and his expression changed immediately when he saw the boy's ragged appearance. His gaze shifted from Tyler to Emma, noting the stark contrast between the two. "What do you want?" the man asked, his tone making his impatience clear. "This girl got separated from her mom at the town square. I brought her here so you can help find her family," Tyler explained, trying to keep his voice steady despite the hostile look he was getting. "Oh, really? And who are you to her? Brother? Cousin?" questioned the attendant, crossing his arms. "No, sir, I just found her crying alone and brought her here because I thought it was the right thing to do." The man laughed unpleasantly. Sure, and I was born yesterday. Listen here, kid, I don't know what kind of scam you're trying to pull, but it won't work on me. This girl is well-dressed, well-cared for, and you—" "He helped me," Emma interrupted, stepping in front of Tyler. "I was lost and crying, and he was kind to me. He hasn't done anything wrong." The attendant seemed surprised by the girl's firm reaction, but kept his suspicious stance. "Is that so? Then tell me your full name, young lady." "Emma Wilson," she answered, lifting her chin with a dignity that impressed Tyler. For the first time, the attendant hesitated. He looked more closely at Emma, noticing details he'd ignored before. The obvious quality of her clothes, the gold chain around her neck, the confident posture despite the situation. "Wilson," he murmured, as if the name sparked some memory. "Yes. My mom is Jennifer Wilson, and my dad is Robert." The attendant visibly paled. Robert Wilson had been the mayor of New Haven for 2 consecutive terms. His wife, Jennifer, was known for her elegance and social work in the city. "One moment," the man said, grabbing the phone in a hurry. "Sergeant Miller, you need to come to the front desk right away. We have a situation." Emma squeezed Tyler's hand, sensing the tension in the air even without fully understanding what was happening. "You two will stay here and not move until I get back," the attendant ordered, pointing to the blue plastic benches lined against the wall. Tyler and Emma sat side by side, her swinging legs that didn't reach the floor, him watching the movement in the police station with growing discomfort. There was something in the atmosphere that unsettled him, as if he were guilty of something he hadn't done. 15 minutes later, a tall man with graying hair appeared at the front desk. He wore an impeccable uniform and carried himself like someone used to being obeyed. His eyes examined Emma first, then turned to Tyler with an unreadable expression. "You're Emma Wilson?" he asked, crouching to her eye level. "Yes, sir. Tyler brought me here because I got separated from my mom." Sergeant Miller nodded slowly, then addressed Tyler. "And you, young man? Where exactly did you find the girl?" "In the town square, sir. She was sitting on a bench, crying. She seemed lost and scared, so I offered to help bring her here." "And why didn't you look for an adult in the square? Why didn't you call her parents directly?" Tyler grew increasingly uncomfortable with the questioning. "She didn't know her parents' number, and there was no one else around in the square. I thought this would be the right place to get help." The sergeant studied the boy's face for a few seconds, as if trying to read his intentions. "Young lady, are you sure you don't know this boy? Never seen him before?" "No, sir, but he was really nice to me. He said he'd help me find my mom." Emma seemed to realize Tyler was being questioned suspiciously, and it bothered her. She stood up from the bench and went to him, holding his hand again in a protective gesture. "He didn't do anything wrong," she declared firmly. "Please, can you call my mom? She must be really worried." Sergeant Miller nodded and signaled to the attendant, who immediately picked up the phone. "We'll contact your parents now, Emma. In the meantime, you two need to wait here." Over the next 20 minutes, the police station turned into a beehive of activity. Tyler watched employees coming and going from the front desk, whispering among themselves and casting curious glances in his and Emma's direction. The girl seemed oblivious to all the commotion, focused on telling stories about her school to distract herself from the wait. "My teacher Lucy always says we should be kind to everyone," she said, looking at Tyler. "You were kind to me today." "I just did what anyone would do," he replied, trying to smile despite the discomfort he felt. "That's not true. Lots of people walked through the town square, and no one stopped to see if I was okay. Only you did." Before Tyler could respond, the door to the police station swung open forcefully, and an elegant woman burst into the lobby. She wore a navy blue skirt suit, high heels, and a leather purse that looked like it cost more than Tyler could earn in years of work. "Emma!" the woman shouted, rushing toward her daughter. "Mommy!" Emma let go of Tyler's hand and ran into her mother's arms. Jennifer Wilson wrapped her daughter in a tight hug, kissing her forehead repeatedly as tears streamed down her perfectly made-up face. "My love, I was beside myself when I turned around and you were gone." Her voice choked with emotion. "I'm sorry, Mommy. I just went to see the birds and got lost." Jennifer raised her eyes and noticed Tyler for the first time. He stood a little apart, watching the reunion with a faint smile. The social gap between them was stark. She in her expensive clothes and refined posture, he in his dirty t-shirt and worn-out sneakers. "Are you the boy who brought my daughter here?" Jennifer asked, stepping closer with Emma still in her arms. "Yes, Mom. I found her in the town square and thought it best to bring her here." Jennifer studied Tyler's face, noting the sincerity in his eyes despite his scruffy appearance. "Mommy, Tyler was really nice to me. He held my hand and said he'd help me," Emma explained. I don't know how to thank you," Jennifer said, genuinely moved. "You could have done anything, but you chose to help. That means so much." At that moment, a tall, imposing man entered the police station. Robert Wilson wore an impeccable dark suit and carried the natural authority of someone accustomed to power. His graying hair was perfectly combed, and his piercing blue eyes scanned the room. "Jennifer, is Emma all right?" he asked, quickly moving toward his family. "Daddy!" Emma stretched her arms toward her father, who immediately scooped her up. "Thank God you're safe, Princess," Robert murmured, kissing his daughter's forehead. "Don't ever scare me like that again." It was then that he noticed Tyler, who remained slightly apart, clearly uneasy with the situation. "And this is the boy who found Emma and brought her here," Jennifer explained. "His name is Tyler." Robert extended his hand to the boy, who shook it firmly despite his nervousness. "Thank you very much, Tyler. You can't imagine how worried we were." "It was nothing, sir. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they wouldn't," Robert said, looking directly into the boy's eyes. "You could have just walked by, but you stopped to help. That says a lot about your character." Emma squirmed in her father's arms, wanting to get down. "Daddy, can I say goodbye to Tyler?" Robert set her down and she ran to the boy, hugging his waist tightly. "Thank you for helping me," she whispered. "You're welcome, Emma. Take care, okay?" During the hug, Emma leaned close to Tyler's ear and whispered something only he could hear. "My parents fight a lot at home. That's why I ran away." Tyler pulled back slightly, looking at the girl's face in surprise. She made a subtle motion with her finger to her lips, signaling silence before returning to her parents. Sergeant Miller approached the group. "Mister, Mayor, I just need a few details to close the report. The girl is fine. There was no problem thanks to the young man here." "Of course, Sergeant. Do whatever is necessary." While Robert spoke with the officer, Jennifer approached Tyler again. "Do you live here in town?" "Yes, ma'am." "With your family?" Tyler hesitated for a moment. His reality was too complicated to explain in that situation. "I get by on my own," he replied simply. Jennifer noticed the evasion in his answer but didn't press further. She opened her purse and took out some bills. "Please, accept this as a token of gratitude." Tyler looked at the money and shook his head. "I can't take it, Mom. I just wanted to help your daughter. I didn't do it for money." The refusal surprised Jennifer. In her world, every situation was resolved with money or influence. The boy's attitude genuinely moved her. "Are you sure? Don't you need anything?" "I'm sure. I'm just glad Emma is okay." Robert finished speaking with the sergeant and joined his wife and daughter. "Tyler, I want you to know our family is in your debt. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you, sir. But I just did what was right." The Wilson family prepared to leave the police station. Emma waved at Tyler one last time before being led out by her parents. Through the glass door, he watched them enter a black Cadillac with tinted windows, escorted by two smaller cars. Tyler stayed at the station a few minutes longer, feeling the weight of the employees' stares on him. Sergeant Miller approached. "You did the right thing today, son." "Thank you, sir. But let me give you some advice. Keep your distance from that family. Politics is a complicated world, and you don't want to get tangled up in it." Tyler nodded, though he didn't fully understand what the officer meant. He left the station as the sun began to set, walking through the empty streets back to his makeshift shelter. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. What Tyler didn't know was that his simple, selfless act had planted a seed that would grow in ways he could never imagine. In the offices of New Haven's municipal power, news that the mayor's daughter had been found by a street kid was already spreading like wildfire. 2 hours later, in the Wilson mansion located in the city's most upscale neighborhood, Emma ate dinner in silence while watching her parents talk in hushed tones in the next room. She could catch fragments of their conversation through the slightly open door. "How does a child just vanish from our sight?" Robert's voice carried irritation. "If this leaks to the press..." "I only turned my back for a second, Robert. I was talking to Mrs. Martha about the fundraising campaign." Jennifer defended herself. "What if it had been a kidnapping? What if someone wanted to use our daughter against us?" "But it wasn't. It was just a child getting lost, and thank God that boy found her." "Yes, the boy..." Robert's tone shifted. "Don't you think it's strange? A street kid who just decides to help without wanting anything in return?" "Robert, he refused the money I offered. Clearly, he had no ulterior motives. Or he's smarter than he seems." Emma stopped chewing the baked beans the cook had prepared. She didn't like hearing her parents speak badly of people who were kind to her. Tyler had been the only adult who cared about her well-being during that awful afternoon. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Michael Crawford, Robert's chief advisor for over 10 years. He was a thin man with glasses, always carrying a black briefcase under his arm. "Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Jennifer," he greeted, entering the room without ceremony. "Michael, I'm glad you came. We need to talk about what happened today." "I already know everything. Sergeant Miller called me as soon as you left the police station." Emma quietly got up from the table and moved closer to the door to listen better. "And what's your take on the situation?" asked Robert. "Delicate. If it gets out that the mayor's daughter was lost alone in the town square, it could be used against us in many ways. Family negligence, lack of security, problems in your administration." "But it was just an accident," protested Jennifer. "Jennifer, dear, in politics there are no accidents. There are only opportunities for opponents," Michael explained. "And the fact that it was a street kid who found her adds another layer of complication." "How so?" asked Robert. "Think about it. How will this sound in the papers? Mayor who promised to end homelessness has daughter saved by abandoned minor. It's too ironic not to be exploited." Emma felt her heart race. She vaguely remembered some conversations she'd overheard about her father's policies regarding people living on the streets. She'd never paid much attention before, but now Michael's words sounded like a threat. "So what do you suggest?" asked Robert. "First, make sure everyone involved stays quiet. I spoke to the people at the police station. They've already been briefed. Second, find out more about this boy. Where he's from, where he lives, who's responsible for him. Why? Knowledge is power, Robert. We need to know who we're dealing with, and depending on what we find, it might be worth making a public gesture. Turn a potentially negative situation into something positive for your image." Jennifer seemed uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "Michael, the boy simply helped our daughter. I don't think we need to turn this into a political strategy." "Jennifer, with all due respect, you don't understand how this world works. Every gesture, every action has political consequences, and if we don't control the narrative, others will do it for us." Emma stepped back from the door and returned to her chair, pretending to eat as she processed what she'd heard. There was something deeply wrong about turning Tyler's kindness into some kind of political maneuver. The next morning, Tyler woke to the sound of rain hitting the plastic tarp covering his shelter under the railway overpass. He shared the space with 3 other boys, Jason, 13, Joey, 12, and Timmy, the youngest, at just 9. "Tyler, did you bring anything to eat?" Timmy asked, rubbing his eyes. "Not today, Timmy, but I'll head out early to see if I can find some work." The truth was, Tyler had spent the last dollars he had on bread the day before, which he'd shared with the younger boys. His strategy for finding work was simple. He offered to carry groceries at the central market, wash cars on the street, or do small cleaning jobs for anyone willing to pay. "Can I come with you?" Jason asked. "You'd better stay and watch the little ones." "I'll try, Mr. Anthony's Bakery first." Tyler washed up as best he could at the public faucet under the overpass, put on the only clean shirt he owned, and headed out to face another day of struggling to survive. He had no idea that 300 yards away, in a dark-windowed Volkswagen van, 2 men were watching him. "That's him," said the older one, a private investigator hired by Michael Crawford. "Are you sure?" Sergeant Miller gave me a detailed description. Height, weight, hair color, scar on the chin. It's definitely him. And he really lives under the overpass? From what I've seen, yes, with other minors, no signs of any responsible adult presence. The investigator jotted down the information on his clipboard as he watched Tyler walk away down the main street. Should we follow him? For now, just observe. Michael wants a full report on his routine before making any decisions. Tyler walked for 15 minutes until he reached the commercial center of New Haven. Mr. Anthony's Bakery was on a busy corner, and the owner always needed help unloading the bread truck in the morning. "Mr. Anthony!" Tyler called out when he saw the man opening the shop doors. Anthony Ferguson was a 60-year-old man with white hair and a prominent belly. He had known Tyler for 2 years and always offered him work whenever possible. "Tyler, my boy, how are you?" I'm good, Mr. Anthony. Do you need help today? Always do. The truck just arrived. If you help me unload, I'll give you $15 and breakfast. Deal. Tyler worked for 2 hours carrying boxes of bread, cookies, and other goods. Mr. Anthony watched the boy with admiration. Despite his age and difficult circumstances, Tyler was hard-working, honest, and polite. "Tyler, can I ask you a personal question?" Anthony said as they drank coffee with milk and ate buttered bread at the bakery counter. "Of course, Mr. Anthony. Have you ever thought about looking for an institution that takes care of minors? An official shelter, something like that?" Tyler chewed his bread slowly before answering. "I've tried a few times, but the places that exist are overcrowded, and there are kids in worse situations than mine. Besides, if I go to a shelter, who'll take care of Jason, Joey, and Timmy? You can't carry the whole world on your shoulders, son." "It's not the whole world, Mr. Anthony. Just 3 boys who have no one else." The answer touched the baker's heart. He knew Tyler's story from sporadic conversations over the years. The boy had lost his mother when he was 12 and never knew his father. His mother's family rejected him, and he ended up on the streets. Instead of giving in to despair, he took responsibility for caring for other minors in similar situations. "You're a good boy, Tyler. Your mother would be proud." Tyler smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "Said I hope so." When he finished working at the bakery, Tyler decided to stop by the town square. He couldn't quite explain why, but he felt like seeing the place where he had met Emma the day before. Maybe it was just curiosity, or maybe he hoped to see her again. The square was busier than the day before. It was Friday, and many people were enjoying the start of the weekend, strolling with their children or shopping at local stores. Tyler sat on the same bench where he had met Emma and watched the crowd. That's when he noticed a man in a grey suit walking toward him. He was tall, thin, wore glasses, and carried a black briefcase. Tyler recognized the type, someone important, probably connected to the city government. "Are you Tyler Johnson?" the man asked as he approached. "Yes, sir. Why?" "My name is Michael Crawford. I'm an advisor to Mayor Robert Wilson. I'd like to talk to you." Tyler felt a chill in his stomach. He couldn't imagine why the mayor's advisor would want to speak with him. "Did I do something wrong?" "On the contrary, you did something very right yesterday, and we want to officially recognize it." Michael sat beside Tyler on the bench, opening his briefcase and pulling out some papers. "The mayor was very impressed by your actions yesterday. Finding Emma lost and bringing her safely to the police station was an exemplary act of citizenship. I just did what anyone would do." "No, Tyler. Unfortunately, many people wouldn't, and the mayor wants to make sure gestures like yours are valued in our city." Michael took a typed sheet from the briefcase. "We're organizing a public ceremony to recognize your actions. You would be honored as Young Citizen of the Year, receive a medal and a certificate of merit." Tyler looked at the paper without fully understanding what was happening. A public ceremony? Yes, next Saturday, right in the town square. There will be press, local authorities, and of course the Wilson family will be there to thank you in person. "Mr. Michael, I don't know if... There's also a cash reward involved. $1,000 as a prize for your civic action." Tyler's eyes widened. $1,000 was more money than he could imagine. With that amount, he could buy clothes for the boys, food for weeks, maybe even rent a small place to get out from under the overpass. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll accept it. The city needs examples like you, Tyler. Young people who make a difference, who show it's possible to be good and honest even in the face of hardship." There was something in Michael's tone that bothered Tyler, but he couldn't quite place it. It was as if the pretty words hid something deeper. "Can I think about it?" Of course, but I'll need an answer by tomorrow. The ceremony is already being planned, and there are a lot of logistical details to finalize." Michael stood up, tucking the papers into his briefcase. "Oh, and Tyler, it'd be best if you didn't mention this to anyone yet. We want it to be a surprise for the city." "Okay, sir." "Great. My number is on this card. Call me by tomorrow afternoon with your answer." Michael handed him an elegant business card and walked away, heading toward a black car parked at the corner of the square. Tyler sat alone on the bench, staring at the card and trying to process everything that had just happened. $1,000. A public ceremony. Official recognition. It seemed too good to be true, and in Tyler's experience, when something seemed too good to be true, there was usually a catch. He tucked the card into his pocket and got up to head back to the overpass. Jason, Joey, and Timmy were playing with pieces of cardboard when he arrived. "Tyler, did you get work?" Joey asked. "I did. I worked at Mr. Anthony's bakery." Tyler shared the $15 he'd earned. He bought bread, milk, and some fruit at the market. As the boys ate, he grew thoughtful, replaying his conversation with Michael. "You're acting weird today," Jason observed. "Did something happen?" "No, nothing big. Just thinking about some things." That night, when the others were asleep, Tyler left the shelter and walked to a small church 2 blocks from the overpass. St. Francis of Assisi Church was always open, and he sometimes went there when he needed to think more clearly. Father Michael was organizing some books at the altar when Tyler walked in. "Good evening, my son." "Good evening, Father." Michael Sullivan had known Tyler for about a year and a half. The boy showed up at church sporadically, never asking for anything, just seeking a moment of silence and reflection. "Do you want to talk about something?" Tyler sat in one of the front pews and told the whole story, meeting Emma, going to the police station, and the conversation with Michael in the square. The priest listened quietly, asking a few pointed questions. "And what is your heart telling you, Tyler?" "That there's something off about all this, Father. I can't understand why they'd hold a ceremony just because I helped a kid. Maybe it's exactly that, a sincere recognition of a good deed. Or maybe it's something else." Father Michael sat beside Tyler. "Have you ever heard of the gift of discernment?" "No, Father. It's the ability to distinguish between what's true and what isn't, between pure intentions and impure ones. Some people are born with this special sensitivity." "And you think I have it?" "I think you survived on the streets for 3 years because you can sense when something isn't right. It's a valuable instinct, Tyler. Don't ignore it." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like the video and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. Tyler spent the night wide awake, thinking about the priest's words. The next morning he woke up with one certainty. He needed to find out more about the real intentions behind Michael's proposal. He left the overpass early and went to the public library. It was a small old building, but it had computers with free internet access. Tyler wasn't very familiar with technology, but he knew the basics. He researched Robert Wilson and his administration. What he found unsettled him. There were several reports about controversial policies regarding the homeless population. The mayor had implemented a program called Clean New Haven, which included frequent urban cleanup operations in areas where vulnerable people often took shelter. One report in particular caught his attention. It was from 3 months ago, when the City Hall had forcibly removed a homeless encampment that had formed on a vacant lot near downtown. The people had been relocated to temporary shelters in distant neighborhoods far from the city center. Tyler felt a chill. The overpass where he and the boys lived was just a few blocks from downtown. If the urban cleanup policies kept expanding, they could be next. He printed out some of the reports and left the library with his mind racing. He was starting to understand why Michael wanted to hold a public ceremony. It wasn't to honor him, but to use his image. Mayor who promises to end homelessness honors vulnerable youth who saved his daughter. The irony was glaring and the underlying message was clear. See, we take good care of our homeless youth. They even save our families. Tyler decided he needed to refuse the offer, but he wanted to do it in person. He called the number on Michael's card and scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. At 3 o'clock, he was in the lobby of City Hall. The building was imposing, with marble floors and portraits of former mayors on the walls. Tyler felt small and out of place in that setting. "Tyler." "So glad you came," Michael said, appearing in the lobby with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Have you made your decision?" "Yes, sir, I have." They went up to Michael's office on the 2nd floor. It was a spacious room with a large desk, shelves full of books and documents, and a panoramic view of the town square. "So?" Michael asked, sitting behind his desk. "I really appreciate the offer, Mr. Michael, but I can't accept it." Michael's smile vanished instantly. You can't accept? Why not? Because I looked into the city's policies toward people living on the streets, and I don't want to be used to promote something I don't agree with. Michael leaned back in his chair, studying Tyler with an expression that mixed surprise and irritation. You looked into it? Where? At the public library. I read about the Clean New Haven program and the forced removals. Tyler, you don't understand the complexity of public administration. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made for the greater good of the city. And who decides what the greater good is? The people who have homes and food, or the ones who don't? The question caught Michael off guard. He hadn't expected a 15-year-old boy to confront him with such direct questions. Look, Tyler, let's be practical. You need money, you need recognition, you need opportunities. We're offering all that on a silver platter. Why complicate things? Because having money isn't worth it if I have to betray my convictions to get it. Michael stood abruptly from his chair. Your convictions? You're a street kid, Tyler. You live under an overpass with no family, no prospects, and you're turning down a chance to change your life because of convictions? The scorn in Michael's voice made his thoughts about Tyler clear. To him, kids like Tyler were just problems to solve or tools to use. Yes, sir, I'm refusing. Fine, your choice, Michael said, sitting back down. But let me give you some advice, Tyler. This town isn't easy for those who don't cooperate with the authorities, especially for people in your situation. There was a veiled threat in those words, and Tyler caught it clearly. Are you threatening me, sir? I'm just explaining how things work here. City Hall has many responsibilities, including maintaining urban order. Sometimes that means taking measures some might find inconvenient. Tyler stood up. I understand perfectly, Mr. Michael. Excuse me. He left the office and hurried down the stairs, feeling Michael's gaze heavy on his back. Outside City Hall, he couldn't help but notice two municipal guards talking near the door, watching him closely. The message was clear. Tyler had become a problem for the city administration. That night under the overpass, Tyler told Jason, Joey, and Timmy everything that had happened. The boys were scared at the possibility of being forcibly removed. So, now what, Tyler? What do we do? Jason asked. We keep living our lives, working honestly, and looking out for each other. We haven't done anything wrong. But what if they come to take us away? If they come, we'll find another place. We've done it before. We can do it again. Timmy, the youngest, moved closer to Tyler. Shouldn't you have helped that girl? The innocent question from the 9-year-old struck deep in Tyler's heart. Of course I should have, Timmy, and I'd do it 1,000 times over. We can't stop doing what's right just because others do wrong. Even knowing it would cause trouble? Especially knowing it would cause trouble. At the Wilson mansion, Emma ate dinner in silence while listening to her parents' heated argument in the next room. She had learned to recognize when adult conversations were important, and this was clearly one of them. He refused? Robert sounded disbelieving. Just flat out refused, Michael confirmed. Said he looked into our policies and doesn't want to be used for propaganda. A 15-year-old playing politics? Jennifer seemed equally surprised. Don't underestimate that boy, Jennifer. He's sharper than he looks. So now what? Robert asked. Now he's a problem. A street kid who knows our daughter and refuses to cooperate could be inconvenient. Emma stopped eating. There was something very wrong in how they were talking about Tyler. What are you suggesting, Michael? Jennifer asked, concern in her voice. I'm suggesting it might be time to expand the Clean New Haven program to the railway overpass area. Emma's blood ran cold. She remembered the overpass. They sometimes drove past it on the way to the mall. She'd always seen people living under it, including children. Are you talking about forcibly removing that boy? Jennifer sounded horrified. I'm talking about doing our job, Jennifer. The law gives us authority to clear unauthorized occupations of public space. It's nothing personal. It is personal, Jennifer snapped. This boy saved our daughter, and you want to punish him for being honest? I want to protect our family and our administration, Jennifer. This boy turned down a generous offer and had the audacity to confront us with political issues. That can't go unanswered. Robert remained silent for a few moments before speaking. Michael is right, Jennifer. We can't let some street kid dictate the terms of our relationship with him. It would set a dangerous precedent. Emma couldn't take it anymore. She got up from the table and ran to her room, slamming the door hard. She threw herself on the bed and began to cry. How could her parents be so cruel? Tyler had been kind to her when she was lost and scared. He had given up money and recognition on principle, and now they wanted to hurt him for that. She thought of the words she had whispered in Tyler's ear at the police station. "My parents fight a lot at home. That's why I ran away." Truthfully, she hadn't run away. She had hidden on purpose while her mother was talking to Mrs. Martha, hoping her parents would worry enough to stop fighting. But now she realized the problem was much bigger than everyday arguments. Her parents were willing to harm innocent people to protect their own interests. Emma waited until she was sure everyone was asleep, then slipped out of her room quietly. She went to her father's office and turned on the computer. She knew the password because she had seen Robert typing it many times. After a few minutes of searching, she found what she was looking for: the documents for the Clean New Haven program and the list of locations scheduled for the next operations. The railway overpass was marked for next week. Emma printed the documents and returned to her room. She needed to warn Tyler, but she didn't know how to find him. Then she remembered something. The day before, when he had brought her to the police station, she had paid attention to the route. She had a rough idea of where the overpass was. The next morning, Emma pretended to have a headache so she wouldn't have to go to school. Jennifer got worried and decided to stay home to take care of her. In the afternoon, when her mother left for a social work meeting, Emma asked the housekeeper, Mrs. Grace, to take her for ice cream in town. "I don't know, Miss Emma. Your mother didn't say you could go out." "Please, Mrs. Grace, I'm feeling much better, and I promise we'll just go to the ice cream shop and come right back." Grace Parker had worked in the Wilson mansion for 5 years and had a soft spot for Emma. The girl was polite, smart, and different from the spoiled children of other wealthy families she had worked for. "All right, but just to the ice cream shop and straight back, understand? I promise." They took the bus. Emma had insisted they didn't need to call the family driver. During the ride, she carefully observed the route, memorizing landmarks. At the ice cream shop, Emma ate a strawberry popsicle while planning how to slip away from Mrs. Grace. The opportunity came when the housekeeper went to the restroom. "Mrs. Grace, I'll stay here at the table finishing my ice cream." "Take your time," Emma called toward the restroom. As soon as she heard the restroom door close, Emma bolted from the shop. She had at most 5 minutes before Mrs. Grace noticed she was gone. She ran through the streets, following her memories from the day before. 2 blocks to the right, 1 to the left, then straight to the railway. Her leather shoes weren't made for running, but she couldn't waste time. Finally, she spotted the overpass, a grey concrete structure crossing over the train tracks. Below it, she could see some tarps stretched out and personal belongings arranged haphazardly. "Tyler!" she shouted, approaching cautiously. A boy of about 13 appeared from behind one of the tarps. "Who are you?" asked Jason suspiciously. "I'm Emma. I'm looking for Tyler." Jason recognized her immediately from Tyler's description. "You're the girl he brought to the police station." "Yes." "Please, I need to talk to him. It's urgent." "Tyler!" Jason shouted. "There's a girl here who wants to talk to you." Tyler appeared carrying a plastic bag with some groceries. When he saw Emma, his eyes widened in surprise. "Emma, what are you doing here? How did you find me?" "I remembered the way we took yesterday. Tyler, I need to tell you something important." She pulled folded papers from her skirt pocket. "My dad and his advisor are planning to remove all of you from here next week. It's because you refused their ceremony." Tyler took the papers and quickly scanned them. Joey and Timmy also stepped closer, curious. "How did you get these documents?" Tyler asked. "I took them from my dad's computer. I heard them talking last night. They're angry because you didn't want to be part of their act." "Act?" "They didn't really want to honor you, Tyler. They wanted to use you to pretend they care about people living on the streets while forcing you all out at the same time." The confirmation of Tyler's suspicions left him both relieved he'd made the right choice and worried about the consequences. "Emma, you shouldn't be here. If your parents find out, I don't care. They're wrong, and you were right to refuse." Timmy shyly approached Emma. Are you really the mayor's daughter? Unfortunately, yes, Emma replied, making a face that made the boys laugh. So what now? Jason asked. Where are we supposed to live if they kick us out? We'll figure it out, Tyler said, trying to stay calm. We always do. Emma looked around the makeshift shelter. It was clean and organized despite the poor conditions. There were books stacked in boxes, clothes folded neatly, and even some flowers planted in old cans. Why don't you go to an official shelter? She asked. Because shelters split up siblings by age, Tyler explained, and we're a family. We won't be separated. The answer touched Emma deeply. Here was a group of boys who took care of each other, shared everything they had, and protected one another like real brothers. It felt more like a family than she ever had in her own home. I'm going to help you, she declared. Emma, you can't get involved in this. My parents are wrong, and I won't stand by while they hurt good people. Just then they heard the sound of a car stopping near the overpass. Emma recognized the engine. It was the family car. They found me, she whispered, frightened. Jennifer Wilson stepped out of the car, accompanied by Mrs. Grace and 2 private security guards. Her face was tense with worry and anger. Emma Wilson, she shouted, get over here right now. Emma looked at Tyler and the other boys. Listen to me. You're the most honorable people I know. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. She ran toward her mother, who grabbed her arm more roughly than necessary. How could you do this, Emma? Running away from Mrs. Grace, coming to a dangerous place like this. It's not dangerous, Mom. It's just a place where good people live because they have nowhere else to go. Jennifer looked at the group of boys, who watched the scene with tense expressions. Her eyes lingered on Tyler, recognizing him immediately. Did you bring my daughter here? She accused. No, Mom, Tyler replied calmly. She came on her own. I was trying to convince her to go home. Mom, he's telling the truth, Emma protested. I came because... You're going to explain this at home, young man, Jennifer cut in. Now get in the car. As the security guards escorted Emma to the vehicle, Jennifer approached Tyler. I don't know what kind of influence you've had on my daughter, but it ends today. If I find out you've gone near her again, there will be consequences. Ma'am, I don't care. Stay away from my family. Jennifer turned and walked to the car, leaving Tyler and the other boys in silence. They watched the vehicle drive away, taking Emma back to her world of privilege and contradictions. Now we're really in trouble, Joey muttered. No, Tyler said firmly. Now we have an ally. That night in the Wilson mansion, Emma faced one of the worst arguments of her life. Robert had come home furious after learning his daughter had visited the camp under the overpass. You've compromised our safety, Emma, he shouted. What if it had been a kidnapping? What if those boys had hurt you? They wouldn't have hurt me, Dad. Tyler is a good person. He saved me when I was lost. He manipulated you, Jennifer accused. He must have told you we were bad, that we didn't take proper care of you. He never said any of that. I figured it out myself. Figured out what? Robert asked, stepping closer to his daughter. Emma took a deep breath before answering. I figured out that you want to remove the boys from the overpass just because Tyler refused to be part of your lie. The silence that followed was deafening. Robert and Jennifer exchanged glances, realizing their daughter knew more than they had imagined. Emma, there are things you don't understand about public administration, Robert began, trying to stay calm. I understand that you wanted to use Tyler to pretend you're kind to poor people, and when he found out and refused, you decided to punish him and his friends. It's not punishment, it's enforcing the law, Robert defended. It's revenge, and it's wrong. Emma ran to her room and locked the door. She heard her parents talking in hushed voices outside, but couldn't make out what they were saying. 2 hours later, when the house was quiet, Emma went down to the kitchen. Mrs. Grace was washing the dinner dishes. Mrs. Grace, can I ask you something? Of course, Emma. Do you think poor people are dangerous? Grace stopped washing the dishes and looked at Emma with tenderness. Why do you ask, dear? Because my parents were really angry when I visited some boys who live under the overpass. They said it was dangerous. Grace dried her hands on the dish towel and sat beside Emma at the kitchen table. You know, Emma, I was poor once too. Very poor. When I was a child, sometimes there wasn't even food at home. Really? Really? And I can tell you that being poor doesn't make someone dangerous. Sometimes it makes people kinder because they know what suffering is. The boys under the overpass are like that. They take care of each other like brothers. And your parents didn't like that you visited them? Emma shook her head. They think the boys are dangerous, but I know they're not. Grace gently stroked Emma's hair. Sometimes adults are afraid of things they don't understand, dear. It doesn't mean they're bad, just that they need to learn to see things differently. How can I help my parents understand? By being yourself, Emma. Keep being the brave, kind-hearted girl you are. The following Monday, Tyler woke to unusual activity around the overpass. Several cars were parked nearby, and uniformed men stood talking in groups. "Tyler, look," Jason said, pointing toward the street. Tyler recognized some of the uniforms: city guards, municipal workers, and even a few state police officers. Exactly what Emma had warned about was happening. "Guys, grab only the essentials," he instructed the other boys. "We have to get out of here now." They moved quickly, taking only their clothes and a few of their most important personal items. Within 15 minutes, they were ready to leave. "Where are we going?" asked Timmy, frightened. "We're going to St. Francis Church. Father Michael will let us stay there until we find another place." They left through the back of the overpass, avoiding being seen by City Hall workers. Carrying backpacks and bags, they hurried through side streets until they reached the church. Father Michael welcomed them without asking questions. He had already heard rumors about the removal operation happening that day. "You can stay in the parish hall for now," he said. "There are mattresses stored there and I can arrange for food." "Thank you, Father," said Tyler. "We don't know where to go." "One thing at a time, my son. For now, you're safe." At 10 in the morning, the Clean New Haven operation officially began. Tractors and trucks arrived at the overpass, accompanied by dozens of city workers. Within 2 hours, the entire encampment had been dismantled and removed. Robert Wilson made sure to oversee the operation personally, along with Michael and a press team. He gave interviews emphasizing the importance of keeping the city clean and organized. "This operation is part of a broader urban revitalization program," he declared to the cameras. "We're offering dignified housing alternatives for these people in shelters located in more suitable areas." What he didn't mention was that the more suitable shelters were 15 kilometers from downtown, with no regular public transportation and limited spaces that couldn't accommodate families or groups. Emma watched the news coverage of the operation on the living room TV, her heart heavy. She knew Tyler and the other boys were no longer at the overpass. She hoped they had managed to leave in time. That afternoon, when her parents weren't home, Emma asked Mrs. Grace to take her to St. Francis Church. It was a desperate attempt to find Tyler and see if he was okay. "Miss Emma, your parents won't like this at all," Grace warned. "Please, Mrs. Grace, I just want to make sure the boys are all right. They were removed from where they lived this morning." Grace hesitated. She had seen the reports about the operation and, deep down, felt bad for the boys who had been displaced. "All right, but just to check on them, and then we go straight home." They arrived at the church in the late afternoon. Emma found Tyler and the other boys in the parish hall, arranging their few belongings on mattresses spread across the floor. "Tyler," she exclaimed, running to hug him, "you made it out in time." "We did, thanks to your warning." "Thank you, Emma." "Are you staying here at the church?" "For now, yes. Father Michael said we can stay a few days while we look for another place." Emma looked around. The hall was spacious but cold, with peeling walls and only the bare essentials in terms of furniture. Still, the boys had organized the space carefully, creating small personal areas with their clothes and belongings. "I can help you find a better place," she offered. "Emma, you don't have to worry about us," Tyler said. "You've already helped us so much." "I want to help, you're my friends." The word friends sounded strange in that setting. Emma was used to schoolmates from wealthy families, her mother's friends who had daughters her age, superficial relationships based on social convenience. Here, for the first time, she felt a genuine connection with others. "Emma, your parents are going to be really angry if they find out you're here," Jason warned. "Let them be angry. I didn't do anything wrong." "Mrs." Grace watched the interaction between Emma and the boys with interest. She could see the girl was genuinely concerned about their well-being and that they treated her with affection and respect. "Miss Emma, it's time for us to go back," she said kindly. "Just 5 more minutes, Mrs. Grace." 5 minutes. Emma moved closer to Tyler and lowered her voice. "I heard my parents talking last night. They're planning something to hurt you even more." "What did you hear?" "I didn't understand everything, but Michael mentioned a background check and possible irregularities. He wants to find something to accuse you of." Tyler felt a chill in his stomach. He had never committed any crime, but he knew people in power could sometimes create trouble out of nothing. "Emma, you need to stay away from all this. If your parents find out you're warning me..." "I don't care. They're wrong, and someone has to do the right thing." "Miss Emma, let's go," Mrs. Grace insisted. Emma hugged Tyler one last time. "I'll find a way to help you, I promise." After she left, Tyler grew thoughtful. The information Emma had brought was troubling, but it also revealed something important. He had gained a powerful ally, even if an unlikely one. Father Michael appeared in the hall with a large pot. "I brought soup for you, Mrs. Martha from the diner made it especially for us." As he ladled soup into mismatched bowls, the priest noticed Tyler's worried expression. "Do you want to talk about what's bothering you?" Tyler told him about the information Emma had shared. The priest listened quietly, asking a few pointed questions. "Tyler, have you ever stopped to think why this girl is risking so much to help you?" "Because she has a good heart." "Yes, but there's more to it. You've given her something she doesn't have at home." "What?" "The feeling of making a difference, of being on the right side of something important." The priest sat on one of the mattresses, level with the boys. "Emma lives in a family where everything is solved with money and influence. You've shown her there are values more important than that. It's a powerful lesson for a child." "But she could get into serious trouble because of us?" "She could, but sometimes people need to face conflict to discover who they really are. Emma is learning she has courage and principles, even if it puts her at odds with her own family." That night, Tyler had trouble sleeping. He felt responsible for Emma, for the other boys, and even for a situation that had started with a simple act of kindness. The next morning, his worries proved justified. 2 city investigators showed up at the church looking for him. "We're from the Urban Regulation Department," one said, flashing a badge. "We're investigating some irregularities involving homeless minors." Father Michael met them at the church entrance. "How can I help you?" "We're looking for a minor named Tyler Johnson. We have information he might be here." "And what's the reason for the investigation?" "Suspicion of loitering, disturbing public order, and possible involvement with minors in irregular activities." The accusations were vague but serious enough to cause trouble. Father Michael knew this was an intimidation tactic. "I can't provide information about people under the church's protection without a court order," he stated firmly. "Father, we don't want to cause trouble. We just need to talk to the boy. If you want to talk to someone who's in the church, you'll need proper legal authorization. This is religious property and has its protections." The investigators left, but made it clear they'd return with the necessary paperwork. Father Michael went to the parish hall where the boys were having breakfast. "Tyler, they came looking for you. I think it's best if you all leave town for a few days." "Where to?" "I have a friend, a priest in Millbrook, about 30 miles from here. He can take you in while this situation gets sorted out." Tyler looked at Jason, Joey, and Timmy. The idea of leaving New Haven worried him, but staying didn't seem safe either. "All right, Father, when can we go?" "Today. I'll call Father Anthony and arrange transportation." As they prepared to leave, Tyler wrote a letter to Emma, explaining he needed to leave town temporarily. He asked Father Michael to deliver it if she showed up at the church. That afternoon, the 4 boys left in an old car driven by a parish volunteer. During the trip, Tyler watched Pennsylvania's mountainous landscape through the window, thinking about how a simple good deed had turned into such a complicated situation. In Millbrook, they were welcomed by Father Anthony at St. Rita Church. He was a young man around 40, with contagious energy and an easy smile. "Welcome," he said. "Michael told me about your situation. You can stay here as long as you need." St. Rita Church was larger than St. Francis, with a more spacious and better-equipped parish hall. There were even working showers and a small library. "You can help with parish activities if you'd like," Father Anthony offered. We have youth groups, children's activities, and always need help with maintenance. For the first time in days, Tyler felt truly safe. Millbrook was smaller than New Haven, with a slower pace of life and seemingly friendlier people. But the peace didn't last long. On their third day in Millbrook, Tyler got a call on the parish phone. It was Emma, calling in secret from her parents. "Tyler, I found out where you were through Father Michael." "Emma, are you okay?" "I'm fine, but I have bad news. My parents found out I visited you at the church. I'm grounded, but that's not what matters. What happened? Michael hired private investigators to look for you. They're saying you're dangerous, that you might influence other kids to run away from home." "That's a lie." "I know it's a lie, but they're spreading this story all over town, and there's more. They found out you're in Millbrook." Tyler's heart raced. "How did they find out?" "I don't know, but I heard Michael talking on the phone about sending investigators there too." "Emma, thank you for warning me, but you need to be careful. If your parents find out you called me..." "I already told you I don't care. Tyler, you need to leave Millbrook. They'll do the same thing here they did back home." After Emma hung up, Tyler told Father Anthony about the call. The priest was concerned, but not surprised. "Small-town politics can get ugly, Tyler. If they want to hurt you, they'll find a way." "Father, I don't want to cause trouble for the church either." "You're not causing trouble. You're being targeted for having principles. That's different." They decided the boys would stay in Millbrook a few more days, but remain alert for anything suspicious. By Thursday morning, the situation took a turn for the worse. 2 cars parked in front of St. Rita Church, and several men stepped out. One wore a New Haven State Police uniform. Father Anthony met them at the church door. "How can I help you?" "We're looking for a miner named Tyler Johnson. We have information that he's hiding here." "By what authority?" The officer showed a document. "Search and seizure warrant issued by the New Haven District Court. The miner is suspected of recruiting other miners and forming a group for illegal activities." Father Anthony quickly read the document. It was official, though based on clearly fabricated accusations. "May I see all of your identifications?" While the priest examined their IDs, Tyler and the other boys slipped out through the back of the church. They had planned an escape route in case this happened. "Father, the boy isn't here?" the officer asked after a few minutes. "If he were, I'd be obligated to hand him over with a valid court order, but you're free to look around." The men searched the entire church and parish hall but found nothing. The boys were already 2 blocks away, walking quickly toward the bus station. "What now?" Jason asked when they arrived. "Now we go to Chicago," Tyler decided. "It's a big city. It'll be easier to hide there until this blows over." With the money they'd saved over the past few months, they bought 4 tickets for the 2 o'clock bus. During the 3-hour ride, Tyler reflected on how his life had completely changed in just 2 weeks. Chicago greeted them with the chaos typical of a metropolis. The bus station was packed with homeless people, street vendors, and a constant flow of travelers. "Where are we going to sleep?" Timmy asked, intimidated by the city's size. "We'll find a place," Tyler assured him, though he wasn't sure himself. They walked through downtown until they found a town square with a few benches. Other people were sleeping on cardboard under the trees. It wasn't ideal, but it would do for one night. The next morning, Tyler woke to someone gently nudging him. It was a middle-aged woman in simple but clean clothes. "Are you new here?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." "Boys your age shouldn't be sleeping on the streets. Come with me. I'll take you somewhere better." The woman introduced herself as Sarah Williams, a volunteer social worker for an organization that helped the homeless. She led them to a temporary shelter run by a religious congregation. "You can stay here until we arrange something more permanent," she explained. "There's food, showers, and real beds." It was a relief to be safe again, but Tyler knew they couldn't hide forever. Sooner or later, they'd have to face the situation back in New Haven. Meanwhile, back in his hometown, Emma was locked in an increasingly heated battle with her parents. She'd been caught calling Tyler and was now practically under house arrest. "Emma, you need to understand. This boy is manipulating you," Jennifer insisted. "He's made you believe we're the villains when we're just trying to protect our family. You're only after him because he refused to lie for you." "We're not after anyone," Robert defended. We're investigating suspicious activity by a minor who's had a negative influence on you. What suspicious activity? Taking care of abandoned kids, working honestly, turning down dirty money. The argument was cut short when Michael walked in with a satisfied look. Robert, good news. The boy's been located in Chicago. Emma shot up from the couch. You're tracking him all the way to Chicago. Why? Emma, go to your room, Robert ordered. No, I want to know what you're doing to Tyler. Michael gave Emma a condescending smile. We're just making sure he gets the proper care, Emma. Homeless minors need to be monitored by appropriate institutions. Liar. You just want to hurt him because he wouldn't sell out. Emma, Jennifer shouted. Go to your room right now. Emma ran to her room and slammed the door, but stayed pressed against it, listening to the conversation continuing in the living room. She's become too emotionally involved in this situation, Michael observed. Maybe psychological counseling should be considered. You think she needs therapy? Jennifer asked, worried. I think she's being influenced by romanticized ideas about the poor and downtrodden. It's common in adolescence, but it needs to be corrected before it becomes a bigger issue. Emma felt sick hearing those words. They really thought her concern for Tyler and the other boys was just some problematic teenage phase. She opened her desk drawer and took out all the dollars she'd saved from her allowance over the past few months. It was $250. Not much, but maybe enough for a bus ticket to Chicago. Emma waited until the early hours, certain everyone was asleep. She dressed quietly, grabbed a small backpack with some clothes and the money, and headed from her room toward the front door. The alarm system was armed, but Emma knew the code. It was her parents' wedding anniversary. She disarmed it, stepped outside, reactivated the system from the exterior keypad, and ran down the dark street toward downtown. At the New Haven bus station, only 2 employees were working the overnight shift. Emma approached the counter, trying to look older than she was. Good morning. I'd like a ticket to Chicago on the first bus. How old are you, kid? 16, she lied. Got ID? Emma showed her birth certificate, praying the clerk wouldn't scrutinize the date too closely. First bus leaves at 5:30 a.m. That'll be $60. Emma paid for the ticket and sat in one of the station's plastic chairs to wait. She knew when her parents woke up and discovered she was gone, there'd be an uproar. But she didn't care anymore. She was tired of being the daughter of people who used power and money to hurt those who couldn't defend themselves. Tired of living in a family where doing the right thing was seen as rebellious trouble. At 5:30 a.m., Emma boarded the bus to Chicago without looking back. For the first time in her life, she was making a choice for herself, following her own convictions instead of blindly obeying her parents. During the 3-hour ride, she planned how she'd find Tyler in a city of over 2 million people. It wouldn't be easy, but she had to try. Back in New Haven, Jennifer discovered Emma was missing at 7 a.m. when she went to wake her for breakfast. The panic was instant and overwhelming. "Robert!" she screamed, rushing to her husband's room. "Emma's gone!" The house descended into chaos. Jennifer called all of Emma's friends. Robert alerted private security, and Michael started pulling strings with the police. It was the family driver who discovered Emma had taken a bus to Chicago. He had a friend working at the station who confirmed it through security footage. "She went after that boy," Michael concluded. "This proves what I suspected. He's had a dangerous influence on her." "We have to find her," Jennifer said, nearly hysterical. "An 8-year-old girl alone in a city like Chicago. I've already called contacts in the city. We'll find her," Robert assured, trying to stay calm. But inside, he was terrified. The situation had spiraled completely out of control, and now her own daughter was at risk because of a petty political fight. In Chicago, Emma stepped off the bus at the New Haven bus station with no idea how to find Tyler. The city was enormous, noisy, and frightening for an 8-year-old girl used to the quiet of New Haven. She walked through the downtown streets, eyeing the homeless people, hoping to recognize Tyler or any of the other boys. After 2 hours of fruitless searching, she sat down in a town square to rest and think of a new plan. That's when she noticed a woman approaching. It was Sarah Williams, the same social worker who had taken in Tyler and the others. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" Sarah asked kindly. "No, I'm looking for some friends." "What kind of friends?" Emma hesitated. She didn't know if she could trust this stranger. Some boys who came from New Haven. They're in trouble, and I want to help. Sarah studied Emma's face. The girl was clearly out of her element. Expensive clothes, polite posture, but with a surprising determination in her eyes. What's your name? Emma. The name caught Sarah's attention. Tyler had mentioned a girl named Emma who had helped him in New Haven. Emma Wilson. Emma's eyes widened. How do you know my name? Because I know your friends. Come on, I'll take you to them. 20 minutes later, Emma was at the shelter home, hugging Tyler, Jason, Joey, and Timmy. The reunion was emotional, but Tyler was worried. Emma, how did you get here? Do your parents know where you are? I ran away. I couldn't stand watching them go after you anymore. You can't just run away. Your parents must be frantic. Let them be frantic. Maybe then they'll understand how bad it feels when someone you care about is in danger. Sarah watched the conversation with growing interest. She was starting to grasp the full scope of the situation. Tyler, tell me the whole story from the beginning, she asked. For the next 2 hours, Tyler recounted everything. Meeting Emma in the town square, going to the police station, Michael's proposal, his refusal, the harassment that followed, and their escape to Millbrook and then to Chicago. And you, Emma, why did you decide to help them? Because they're good people and my parents are being unfair. Tyler saved me when I was lost, and now my family wants to hurt him just because he wouldn't take part in a lie. Sarah stayed silent for a few minutes, processing the information. This is a very serious situation, she finally said. Emma, you're a minor, and your parents have legal authority over you. They could involve the police to force you to return. I don't want to go back. I understand how you feel, but the law doesn't always match our feelings. Sarah turned to Tyler. And you boys, are you really being targeted over politics? Yes, ma'am. Just because I refused to take part in a ceremony that was more about propaganda than real recognition. I see. Sarah picked up the phone and made some calls. She spoke with supervisors from her organization, explained the situation, and asked for legal guidance. After 40 minutes on the phone, she returned to talk to the boys. I managed to speak with some lawyers who specialize in minors' rights. Your situation is complicated but not impossible to resolve. How? Tyler asked. First, Emma needs to contact her parents to let them know she's safe. That'll ease their panic and desperation. I don't want to talk to them. Emma, even if your parents acted wrongly, they love you and must be terrified thinking something bad happened to you. Emma resisted but finally agreed to make the call. Jennifer answered the phone on the first ring. Emma? Emma? Thank God. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine, Mom. I'm with my friends in Chicago. Emma, you have to come home right now. An 8-year-old girl can't be alone in a big city. I'm not alone. I'm with people who really protect me. Sweetheart, we protect you. We're your family. You don't protect anyone, Mom. You only protect Dad's political interests. Jennifer started crying on the other end of the line. Emma, please come home. We can talk about all of this, but you need to be safe. I'll only come back if you stop going after Tyler and the other boys. Emma, that's it, Mom. Either you stop this ridiculous persecution, or I'm not coming back. Emma hung up the phone and turned to Sarah. There, now they know I'm okay. Sarah sighed. The situation was getting more complicated by the minute. Emma, emotional blackmail isn't the best way to handle family conflicts. It's not blackmail. It's a fair condition. Tyler walked over to Emma. Emma, you can't stay away from your family because of us. That's not right. What's not right is my family going after you. 2 wrongs don't make a right. The wisdom in Tyler's words even surprised Sarah. For a 15-year-old boy who had been through so much hardship, he showed impressive emotional maturity. Just then, the phone at the shelter home rang. Sarah answered and spoke for a few minutes before hanging up. That was my supervisor. She got an official call from New Haven City Hall asking for information about you all. Did they find us? Jason asked, frightened. Not exactly, but they know you're in Chicago, and they're putting pressure through official channels. Sarah sat in a chair and looked at the group of children in front of her. Listen, I'll be honest with you. This can't go on like this. Emma can't stay away from home forever, and you all can't keep hiding indefinitely. So what can we do? Tyler asked. We can try to handle this the right way, with transparency, dialogue, and if necessary, Legal support. How? First, we'll document all the harassment you've faced. I'll talk to journalists who specialize in human rights. If what you're saying is true, this story could put serious public pressure on New Haven's administration. What if it doesn't work? Emma asked. If it doesn't, at least we tried to do the right thing. Sometimes that's all we can do. Over the next few hours, Sarah organized a full-scale operation. She reached out to contacts in human rights organizations, spoke with investigative journalists, and consulted lawyers specializing in children's rights. What they uncovered was shocking. New Haven wasn't the only town with controversial policies toward the homeless. There was a pattern of behavior in several small towns across Pennsylvania, where mayors used urban cleanup operations to cater to middle-class voters. One investigative journalist from a major Chicago newspaper took a special interest in the story. Richard Ferguson had 30 years of experience covering human rights violations and immediately recognized the narrative's potential. "It's the perfect story," he said during a meeting at the shelter home. "Her poor boy saves the mayor's daughter, refuses a reward on principle, and gets hunted down by the very mayor who should protect him." "Do you think the story can make a difference?" Tyler asked. "If it's told well and well documented, it could bring down a local government. Public opinion does not tolerate obvious injustices when they are clearly exposed." Richard spent 2 days interviewing Tyler, Emma, and the other boys. He also spoke with Sarah, Father Michael from New Haven by phone, and even Mrs. Grace, who corroborated several details of the story. The journalist also conducted investigative work on Robert Wilson's administration, uncovering other questionable situations involving the use of public power to target political opponents. Meanwhile, in New Haven, the pressure on Robert and Jennifer was intensifying. Emma had already been away from home for 4 days, and they couldn't force her return without causing an even bigger public scandal. "We need a different strategy," said Michael during a meeting in the mayor's office. "The situation is getting out of hand." "What strategy?" asked Robert, visibly exhausted. "We could offer a deal. We stop pursuing the boy in exchange for Emma's return. That would mean admitting we were wrong. It would mean solving the problem before it gets worse." Jennifer, who had remained silent for most of the conversation, finally spoke. "Michael, can I ask you something? Why is it so important to harm this boy?" "Jennifer, I've already explained—" "No, you haven't. You've given political excuses, but you haven't explained why a 15-year-old boy poses such a big threat that it justifies all this." Michael hesitated. The truth was that the situation had gotten out of his control too. What had started as an attempt to manipulate a situation for political gain had turned into a personal obsession. "The problem isn't the boy himself," he admitted. "The problem is the precedent. If we allow ordinary people to publicly defy us without consequences, our authority is compromised." "Our authority?" Jennifer stood up from her chair. "Michael, what authority are you talking about? The authority to target defenseless children?" "Jennifer, you don't understand how politics works. I understand that my daughter is away from home because she's ashamed of her own parents." Jennifer's words echoed through the office like a gunshot. It was the first time someone had spoken the raw truth of the situation. Emma hadn't run away out of teenage rebellion, but out of moral shame toward her family. Robert stayed silent for a few minutes before speaking. "Michael, drop all investigations into the boy." "Robert, are you sure?" "I am. And draft an official statement saying the city recognizes Tyler Johnson's service in finding my daughter, and that any misunderstandings about harassment or intimidation were the result of overzealous employees acting without higher authorization." "That's admitting fault publicly. It's taking responsibility. There's a difference." Michael left the office visibly displeased. Robert turned to Jennifer. "Let's go get our daughter." "How?" "We'll go to Chicago, in person, and we'll admit she was right and we were wrong." In Chicago, Richard Ferguson was finishing his report when he received an unexpected call. It was Robert Wilson. "Mr. Ferguson, this is Robert Wilson, Mayor of New Haven." "I know who you are. How can I help you?" "I'd like to schedule an interview with you. I want to publicly clarify this entire situation involving my daughter and the boy, Tyler Johnson." Richard could hardly believe what he was hearing. You're willing to give an interview about this situation? I am. And more than that, I'm willing to admit that my administration made serious mistakes in this case. When can you come to Chicago? I'm leaving now. I'll be there in 3 hours. Richard hung up the phone and immediately called Sarah. The mayor is coming here. He wants to give an interview and seems willing to admit his mistakes. Is this for real? It appears so. Can you let the boys know? I think our strategy is working. At the shelter home, the news stirred mixed feelings. Emma felt hopeful that her parents had finally understood, but also nervous about the reunion. Tyler was relieved at the possibility of ending the harassment, but cautious about Robert's true intentions. At 5 in the afternoon, Robert and Jennifer arrived at the shelter home. They came alone, without bodyguards or aides, driving their own car. Emma ran into her parents' arms as soon as she saw them. No matter how angry she'd been with them, they were still her family and she had missed them. "My love, how are you?" Jennifer asked, kissing her daughter repeatedly. "I'm okay, Mom. The boys took care of me." Robert approached Tyler, who stood slightly apart watching the family reunion. "Tyler, I came here to apologize." "Sir?" "You were right and we were wrong, completely wrong." Robert extended his hand to the boy. "You saved my daughter, and even taught us an important lesson about integrity. Instead of thanking you, we tried to hurt you. That's unforgivable." Tyler shook the mayor's hand, still processing the situation. "Mr. Robert, I just did what I thought was right. I know, and that's why you're a better example for my daughter than I've been." Jennifer joined them. "Tyler, Jason, Joey, Timmy, can you forgive me? I allowed terrible things to be done in my family's name." "Mrs. Jennifer, you don't need to apologize to us," Tyler said. "We just want to live in peace and take care of each other." "And you will. I promise that." Richard Ferguson, who had arrived with a team of photographers, documented the entire encounter. The interview that followed was one of the most impactful of his career. Robert publicly admitted all his mistakes: the attempt to manipulate Tyler for political gain, the harassment that followed the boys' refusal, and the misuse of city resources for personal matters. "The truth is, my daughter is 8 years old and has shown more wisdom and moral courage than I, a 50-year-old man with 2 decades of political experience," he declared during the interview. "She recognized integrity when she saw it, and I failed to do the same." The story ran in a Sunday edition and made national waves. The tale of Tyler, Emma, and the Wilson family became a symbol of several important social issues: the rights of homeless minors, the political misuse of public power, and the importance of personal integrity in the face of temptation. The consequences were immediate. Michael Crawford was fired from his advisory position. Several city employees involved in Tyler's harassment were suspended. And Robert announced a complete overhaul of municipal policies regarding vulnerable populations. But the most important changes happened to the people directly involved. Tyler, Jason, Joey, and Timmy returned to New Haven, where they were welcomed as heroes by many. St. Francis Church organized a home where they could live with dignity, staying together as a family. Tyler resumed his studies through a youth worker education program and landed a part-time job at an auto repair shop. His grades were excellent, and he began dreaming of going to college. Jason, Joey, and Timmy also returned to regular school and adjusted well to their new reality. They continued living together in the house secured by the community, with Tyler Johnson officially taking custody of the minors through a foster family program supervised by social services. Emma returned to school, but was changed. The experience had matured her quickly, and she began taking an interest in social issues. She visited Tyler and the other boys regularly, and her friendship with them became one of the most important things in her life. Robert faced some political criticism over the incident, but his public admission of fault and the reforms he implemented ultimately strengthened his position. He discovered that being honest about his mistakes was more politically effective than trying to hide them. Jennifer became much more actively involved in social work, now with a genuine understanding of the issues she sought to address. She developed a true friendship with Sarah Williams and often visited Chicago to collaborate on social assistance programs. 6 months after the incident, a formal ceremony was held in New Haven's town square. This time, it wasn't political propaganda, but a genuine recognition organized by the community itself. Tyler was honored not just for finding Emma, but for proving that it's possible to maintain integrity even in the face of pressure and temptation. The ceremony was attended by dozens of people who had been inspired by his story. In his speech, Tyler spoke about the importance of doing what's right even when it's hard, the strength that comes from true family bonds, even when that family isn't biological, and how a single good deed can create unexpected positive consequences. "I never imagined helping a lost girl could change so many lives," he told the crowd gathered in the square. "But I've learned that when we do the right thing for the right reasons, the universe conspires to multiply the good we put into the world." Emma, sitting in the front row beside her parents, smiled proudly at her friend. She had learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but doing what's right, despite fear. The other boys, Jason, Joey, and Timmy, stood beside Tyler on stage. They represented something important, proof that family and love can be created even in the most difficult circumstances. Their story became legend in New Haven. It was told in schools as an example of integrity, in churches as an example of love for others, and in families as proof that one person can make a difference by choosing to do what's right. But perhaps the most important aspect was that the story was still being written. Tyler and the other boys grew up to become exemplary citizens. Emma became a young human rights activist. Robert and Jennifer learned to be better politicians and better people, and every year, on the anniversary of the day Tyler found Emma in the square, the town celebrated Integrity Day, a reminder that doing the right thing is always worth it, even when the path is hard. Years later, when Tyler was in college studying law on a merit-based scholarship, he still visited the town square where it all began. Sometimes he brought books to study there. Sometimes he just sat and reflected. Emma, now a teenager, often joined him on these visits. They talked about the future, their dreams, and how that day had changed both their lives. "Do you regret anything?" Emma asked one afternoon. "Helping you?" "Never," Tyler answered without hesitation. "What about turning down Michael's offer? Especially turning down Michael's offer?" Emma smiled. "You know what I learned from all this?" "What?" "That sometimes the greatest blessings in our lives come disguised as problems. If you had accepted that offer, none of us would have learned what we did." Tyler agreed. The persecution they had faced, however unfair it had been, had revealed the true character of everyone involved. It had shown who they really were beneath the social and economic facades. "And you know what, Emma?" he said, looking at the fountain where she had been crying on that distant day. "If I had to do it all over again, I'd do exactly the same thing. Even knowing all the trouble it would cause, especially knowing all the trouble it would cause, because in the end, the troubles passed, but the lessons remained." Emma stood up from the bench and hugged her friend. "Thank you for teaching me that it's possible to be both strong and kind at the same time. Thank you for teaching me that even a child can have courage." They walked together through the town square, watching the children playing, families strolling, the quiet, ordinary life of a small town. But both knew that beneath that normalcy lay a lasting lesson, that every person has the power to choose to make a difference when the opportunity arises. And sometimes that opportunity comes in the simplest form, a lost child crying on a park bench, waiting for someone to care enough to stop and ask if she's okay. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story and where you're listening from. If you have something to share about overcoming challenges, courage, or moments that changed your life, leave us an honest comment. Do you think Tyler made the right choice by refusing the offer? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.